care. I'm here because I care.
At least you can swallow the greatness.
What?
At least you can swallow the greatness.
Hey, I don't need that from you. Yes, grapes are out to get me. We all know that. Okay. So where was I?
Just talked about how Lincoln's election was.
Oh, Lincoln's election. Put +1 in your paper. You get +1. So let's talk about the reasons. But they all revolve around and connect to slavery. After the war, the South would do an amazingly effective propaganda to say the war is not about slavery. Slavery was just a part of it. But no, everything revolved around slavery. So the reasons I give you are going to come back to protecting slavery. The wealth they made from slavery, the money invested in slaves, and that fear of slave rebellion. And that is why the territories were so important. Slavery in the territories. Because territories were the areas that the federal government had control. The states, especially before the 14th Amendment, which came before the Civil or after the Civil War ended, so before the Civil War, the federal government had very limited authority within the states. That's why this is so important. Who controls the federal government will decide the direction these territories will go. So we've talked about this in the past. So number one, the most important is ideology. Now it's about slavery. Remember, these are strongly held beliefs. These are things that people believe to be true, and they cannot be swayed, regardless of facts. They don't want to compromise from them. And they're going to become quite corrosive, especially, without a doubt, in the South. Partially because they were becoming the minority section. Less population, and they can see it down the road, economically minority. So, just to review the South, because we've talked about this. Is that positive? Good. Slavery is good. People know the place. It's working. It's natural. All these things we talked about. And don't forget, in the North, there are a bunch of wage slaves. The South believes we treat our workers better than they treat their workers in the North. We have a better system. Not only is our system better, and it works, makes money, should go in the territories, but everybody in the North is what person? Ready to start a slave rebellion. They're all a bunch of John Browns. John Browns. The North. More and more the North has that free labor. Our idea is opportunity. We have a better system, this market economy. But you notice, this is a lot more vague. This can be taken in different directions. Here, protect slavery. And so, it's one of the reasons why they have a much stronger ideology. It's really about one thing. Where this is spread out. There's a lot of ways you can be. So you're going to get pro-industrial people and pro-union, or labor union people on this side. And they fear slave power. Remember the Three-Fifths Compromise. And the vast majority want a white republic. They want the United States to be a white republic. So there's a big racist element. Remember, they want to send the free slaves and then send them to Liberia. And you notice I did not put down abolitionists. There was a tiny minority in the North that were abolitionists. Very few abolitionists nationwide, even in the North. Yeah.
So what's the North authority about the free slaves taking their jobs?
There was an element of that, the idea that free slaves would come north and take their jobs. And that's why we want to maintain and keep this a white republic. But there was that economic argument. The same would be the nativist argument. So that would be another argument that fit in the wheel, free labor for white people. Yes,
What was the name of the movement that moving the slaves to liberation?
American colonization. Sometimes you just simply say colonization, and everyone knew what it meant then. Okay, and so the thing is, once people believe this, especially in the South, regardless of what anybody said, like Abraham Lincoln, who said, "I'm free soil. I will not touch slavery in the South." Southerners looked at him like, "No, you're lying. We know. We know it. You're John Brown. You're John Brown in disguise." He even grew a beard. Think about it. Think about it. And so, with that, 2, industrial growth in the North. This was a huge deal. It had been starting before the Civil War, but with railroads and iron, but especially right after the war, steel, Southerners could see that the North is going to economically control the country. Before the war, the richest people in the country were in the South. Most of the exports of the country was cotton. In fact, money to invest in factories in the North, a lot of it came off the backs of slave labor. But the South could see it. The North is going to take over. Economically, they will control us. And not just the economic control. They will get laws to promote industry, like a tariff. So they could see the system of slave labor in the South is going to be superseded, weakened. 3, population. Remember, there were 31 million people in the United States when the Civil War began. Only 9 million lived in the South. And of that, only 4 million were slaves. The population, I mean, which they could see it. We're going to be outvoted. Their market's going to be bigger. The North is going to be the minority. In fact, they're thinking about this one. The South will be a permanent minority. And they're terrified of that. Even in the short run, it doesn't change every law. In the long run, this could change everything.
Maybe they should stop going for, using their slaves to have children and, actually
They did both.
populate. Yeah,
That was
I
really
feel like
not.
They should probably focus more on this.
But it wasn't that. Remember, the big thing wasn't the number of children they're having, it was immigrants. Immigrants were going to the North. Yeah.
So if there are more slaves than like white people.
Actually, no, there's slightly more white.
Okay, so did everyone have slaves?
No, the vast majority of slave owners, or the vast majority of slaves were owned by about 1% of the population.
So those people would have a ton of slaves.
200, 300, you the big plantations. Over 3/4 of whites did not have slaves at all. When you start looking at that number, it's 5 million whites, 4 million slaves. That means tiny percentage had all the wealth. And they could see it. The Electoral College, the House, they are the minority district. And number 4. 4. I forgot. But it's really important. And the Republican Party. Can't emphasize enough how important the Republican Party was to start the war. And the reason why the Republican Party was so important is this. It was a purely northern party, but it was a couple things. It was free soil, and it promoted industrial growth. It's not the party of big business yet. That's not going to come till after the Civil War. But they wanted a tariff. They wanted internal improvements. They wanted all those things Southerners feared would weaken slavery. So now you have a northern party. And so if you think about it, they'll promote this, more power economically for the North. The Republican Party has an advantage because of population, and they can start winning elections. They're worried about that in 1856. And also, remember, to many Southerners, a Republican who says free soil is really saying what? Abolitionists and slave rebellion. They're all saying it. The overriding fear of slave rebellion cannot be understated. So you have this, and here's the issue. Republicans win, not only can they get these laws passed, but they can create a Republican Party in the South. They can start appointing Republicans to government office. And that's the reasons. So Southerners looked at this, and they're thinking, they're all out to get us. Economically, we're doomed. Population-wise, we're doomed. And here, they are bringing our doom. So this moderate, in terms of 1860, Abraham Lincoln, who they didn't even know. They didn't care about Abraham Lincoln. He represented free soil. It could have been any, let me rephrase that, any Republican elected president in 1860 would have triggered civil war. And so there's, like some people said, what if Abraham Lincoln, I just thought, something happened to him before the election and he didn't become president. That didn't matter. They didn't even know who Abraham Lincoln was. We now know who Abraham Lincoln was. He's the guy on the $5 bill, the penny. Why? Because he must have been important. Yeah.
So, with the population itself and plantation holders, could you consider a lot of this slave aspect of the Civil War always elitist?
Oh, it was a very elitist. But the vast majority of Confederate soldiers were whites without property. Almost all of them. Why? If slaves are free, they lose the one thing we have. That we're white. And now you're going to take away ours. That's the only thing we got. So, when Southerners, when they fired on Sumter, they knew it was war. The Union cannot survive if states leave the Union. The United States is gone. And everybody who thought rationally knew it. Secession meant civil war because the U.S. has to fight. If they don't fight, the Union is done. Because think about it. If 11 states leave because of an election of Abraham Lincoln, what if, I'm always going back to Wisconsin. Wisconsin gets mad at the law banning cheese or something. They leave the Union and form the country of Wisconsin. Badgers don't trust the Badgers. Yes?
So if the Confederates did like become its own like whatever, what would they
Well, they
do to the
did.
territory? Like who would get the territory?
Huh?
Like what would happen? Would the US keep the territories?
Well, actually, they tried, the Confederates tried to get New Mexico, but the U.S. would beat them. But they tried to get New Mexico, and a lot of the Indian Territory joined the Confederacy because they're still mad about Indian removal. Which is very ironic because who took a lot of their land were the states of the Confederate. Yeah, they're, you know.
So did a lot of the rich population of the South pay the border to fight?
More like got the government to draft them and force them into the army. Which is the way it kind of always is.
So only 1% of the population had slaves in the South. Was the reason that the South had that ideology was because of the like if they took away slavery, then they would be
They could sell it to poor whites, say, you're closer to us than them. They get rid of slavery, now you're just like them. Which is horrifically racist, but that's how racism works. Yeah.
So, like, a lot of people in the South had like a lot of slaves.
Yeah. Well, a tiny percentage had.
Yeah, but like a lot of
Yeah.
generally.
About 1% of the population had about 75% of the slaves. Now we look at wow, what that's a lot of wealth. But that's about what the inequality of wealth is in the US today. So we're very much like the South. And this, and strings are being pulled by the same people. And so, with that, what we have is, for the South, this is a preventative strike. They know it needs war, so they are causing civil war. The U.S. has no choice but to go to civil war. They know it. We're doing this because of what might happen down the road. Down the road, these factors Especially their ideology convinced them these factors, the North is going to come get us. We better do it now, because in 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, we'll be weaker. You notice I'm using 4 years because of elections. That's why I said it didn't matter who was elected president. If a Republican was elected, if it would have been Stanton, I'm thinking about other very prominent, or Cameron of Pennsylvania, they would have won. It wasn't Lincoln. Yes.
What was the strike?
Preventative strike means they seceded to prevent what the North might do down the road. And they said it was states' rights. This is all states' rights. But states' rights, what states' rights meant was protecting the state. They would have been perfectly fine if the federal government would have done everything they could to protect slavery. Yeah.
So is there like a tiny part of it that actually like was state rights that didn't have to do with slavery? Or did they?
There was an element of state, the issue of protecting states' rights, and states were sovereign. But the reason they wanted that to be sovereign was to protect slavery. So there was an element that exists in this country to this very day about the power of states and the power of the federal
So
government.
there wasn't like any like law they were trying to pass like they didn't want to enforce other than slavery. Like that.
They didn't want a tariff. They didn't want internal improvements. But they wouldn't have gone to civil war if they didn't think the tariff was a threat to slavery. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because Montana, there's laws passed in Montana doesn't like. So we have a lot of nuclear weapons. We can get Canada.
What's in Canada?
Huh?
What do we have to get in Canada?
Nice.
No. All right, maple syrup. All right. All right, so we're gonna have. So wouldn't this make a great essay? Yeah. Why Montana should take Canada? I gave you
Let's annex it.
a handout. This is what's called a document-based question. Why do we call it document-based question? Because this allows us to use the initials DBQ. Did anyone not grab this on your way in? It's people like you what cause discontent. That's why we can't get Canada. So the document-based question is an essay question. That's all it is. It's an essay question. We still most commonly for this, because it's a timed essay, use a 5-paragraph format. But instead of just your information, it is also you use documents and your knowledge of the documents as evidence. And you have to use evidence from 6 documents in an essay. Now you think 6, that's a lot. That's only 2 per paragraph in a 5-paragraph essay, right? So think about how you would kind of divide the documents up into the group, or your paragraphs. You organize just like you would a regular 5-paragraph essay. I'll show you a little bit more how to do this, but I'm giving you the question right now. This is a document-based question. There are 8 documents in here. So you can throw out 2.
There's a
Come on. Come on. Now, in a way, these essay questions can be more difficult because you have to get 6 documents in there. So you have a little bit of stress, and I got to read these documents, I got to figure out a way to fit in your essay. And yes, I understand that. You get more time on the AP exam, for example, but this is a quarter of the AP of your grade. 1 question. But it is easier in a way because the questions are usually pretty broad and the documents give you hints. Not only help you remind you of things, but also kind of direction their thinking. You remind you have a map of the election of 1860. You better mention the election of 1860. It gives you hints. It kind of, oh yeah, I remember that. And so, yes, gotta get documents in. Gotta read the documents. It's a little bit more stress that way, but remember, it's helping you. It's giving you hints. So what we're going to do is this. We're not doing the essay question right now. We're doing it at lunch. So hope you planned on staying. It's due on Thursday. What you got to do is this. There are 8 documents. You notice there's space under each one. Underline the key points of the documents underline what the document is trying to say, but then also underline what the key points of the document is trying to say, main ideas. But then, in just a couple words, don't underline everything. Don't get the habit of just and whole thing. But then why? Then erase the other parts you want are important. But write down just a phrase or a few words, one of the 4 things that happen. So if you think of historical content, you know that fits really well in there. You know that the document relates to the audience, the point of view, or the purpose. And let's be clear about something. Historical content, I think, and purpose are the 2 best ones. I think purpose is best. This document is trying to do this. Or this was going on that relates to the document. To me, those are the 2 easiest ones. I think audience is the hardest. I think it's the hardest to come up with exactly what they're saying. And I think point of view can be hard because what is their motivation, where they come from, that can be difficult, especially if you don't know. But I want you to jot down one of the 4 for each document. Now, as Chris found, there's a map of the election of 1860. Wait, audience would be pretty hard, wouldn't it? Point of view, they use straight lines, so historical content or purpose for maps. I think historical context. The Democratic Party was split. Yeah, exactly. The Northern Thursday. Underline and just write down and just put the phrase. You can write down full sentences. Just what things would be happening. Yeah, come back. It's due on Thursday, and then we'll talk more about the actual, just the document. You're not answering the question yet. Just do the documents. On Thursday, we'll talk about writing the thing. You're good here.
The only thing is that there's 4 founders right now, so you have to find them. I got it. The underlying yeah. We only have to do 1 for half.
Oh, I know these.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, it's already numbered. But all the documents, all the 1. Yes. My paper. From 1 to 9. Because I was gonna.
Yeah. Just give it the books to just remind how that.
You still look like that's not getting it.
I might have put it back in the period full stuff.
Speaking of which, did you
It's in there, it's in there. If not, I'll try to find it.
see?
That remind me it's there while I'm looking.
Okay, I got it.
Said you wanted this. Yeah, thank you. Huh? Yeah, you should go home.
No, that's Riley's. He didn't give me one.
Get on sheet of paper. It's the first one. They're all 3 the same thing. See you, Partridge. See you tomorrow. So 9 total sentences.